There's a reason some women walk into a room and every man shifts, not just because she's beautiful, but because there's something about her energy that lingers long after she's gone. You know what I'm talking about? That woman who doesn't try too hard, doesn't beg for attention, doesn't explain herself, yet somehow he can't stop thinking about her. Let me make one thing clear. This isn't luck. This isn't about being born with some mystical charm. It's psychology. It's precision. It's the art of being unforgettable without saying a word too many. Most women are taught to give more love, more attention, more patience, more of themselves, hoping that someday he'll notice. But that's not how obsession is created. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Obsession doesn't come from what you give. It comes from what you hold back, from what you make him work for, from what you make him feel when he's around you, and more importantly, when he's not. So if you've ever sat there wondering why he pulls away after the chase, why he loses interest when you finally open up, why he was obsessed with her and casual with you, this is the truth. No one told you. It's not because she was better. It's because she understood something deeper. She understood how to activate the part of a man's brain that can't resist mystery, can't ignore challenge, and cannot let go of a woman who moves differently. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 psychological triggers, not tricks to manipulate, but truths that shift everything. Tools that flip the dynamic and put you back in control. And once you learn how to use them, you won't have to chase obsession ever again. You'll become the kind of woman he can't stop thinking about, even if he doesn't fully understand why. So sit up, lean in, because once you understand these 7 switches, you won't just attract him, you'll haunt him. Most people misunderstand what it means to make someone obsessed. They hear the word obsession and think of manipulation, control, or playing mind games. But let's get one thing absolutely clear. Real obsession, the kind that keeps someone thinking about you at 3 a.m., and that makes them rearrange their life just to be closer to you, is not built on deception. It's built on magnetism. Not what you do to him, but what you activate within yourself. It's not about forcing anyone to want you. It's about becoming the kind of woman who naturally draws people in without needing to chase or convince. Manipulation is a performance. It's fragile. It depends on controlling how someone sees you. But magnetism, that's internal. That's rooted. It's the result of deeply knowing your own worth and refusing to trade your soul for temporary attention. You see, people are drawn to certainty. They're pulled toward energy that feels calm, confident, and self-contained. When you walk through life like you don't need to be chosen to feel valuable, something shifts. Men don't obsess over women who need them. They obsess over women who are whole with or without them. Obsession begins when curiosity meets challenge. When a man senses that you're not emotionally available to everyone, when your presence feels intentional instead of desperate, he starts leaning in. He wants to understand you. He wants to figure out how you became so powerful without shouting. And the deeper he looks, the more layers he finds. That's the kind of experience that stays on his mind. That's the kind of woman he thinks about when he's with someone else and wonders why it doesn't feel the same. You don't need to manipulate a man into wanting you. If you become the kind of woman who moves with purpose, silence, and grace, he'll chase you because he wants to, not because you baited him into it. Think about this. When someone is calm in chaos, when they don't react emotionally, when they speak with clarity and hold their boundaries with kindness, that energy sticks. That's power. And that power isn't loud. It whispers. It draws him in without trying. Magnetism also comes from selectiveness. When you're not impressed by surface-level charm, when you're not easily moved by cheap words or half efforts, a man realizes that he has to rise in order to reach you. You're not begging, you're not convincing, you're not pleading for him to choose you. You're just standing in your truth, and if he wants access to it, he has to earn it. That's the moment the game changes. Because obsession doesn't live in availability, it lives in access. In the feeling that being close to you is a privilege, not a guarantee. Most women are taught to overgive in order to be loved, to bend, to accommodate, to prove their worth. But obsession doesn't come from being nice. It comes from being undeniable, from showing up in your fullness and never shrinking to be more palatable. That's not manipulation. That's alignment. And alignment is magnetic. A man doesn't become obsessed because you made him jealous or posted the right photo or withheld a text for 12 hours. He becomes obsessed when being around you makes him feel something he can't get anywhere else. Not because you performed for him, but because you stood still in your power while everyone else trembled for attention. You let your energy speak. You didn't rush. You didn't chase. You let him come to you, and when he did, he realized you were nothing like the rest. This kind of pull doesn't require words. It's in how you walk, how you pause, how you protect your peace. It's in your refusal to make someone your whole world. Just because they gave you a little attention. It's in the way you smile, not to please, but because you're centered. It's in the silence you hold when you know your value doesn't need defending. Here's what most people won't tell you. When a woman is truly magnetic, men don't understand why they're drawn to her. They just are. It's not logical. It's energetic. She's not doing 100 things to impress them. She's doing the work to stay grounded in who she is, and that stability, that peace, that unshakable sense of self. It becomes addictive. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. So no, obsession isn't manipulation. It's not a script or a scheme or a formula. It's a side effect of who you are when you stop trying to earn love and start embodying it. It's what happens when you choose to become so powerful in your presence that you don't need anyone to validate it. And when a man feels that, when he senses that you are home within yourself and that nothing he does can sway your center, he won't want to let go. Because obsession, real obsession, is never about control. It's about awe. It's about respect. It's about feeling like he found something rare and knowing he might never find it again. Most women are taught that to be loved, they need to be present, accessible, and constantly available. That if they don't reply quickly, if they don't show up all the time, if they don't constantly reassure a man, he'll lose interest. But the truth is, nothing pulls a man in faster or deeper than the right use of absence and ambiguity. Not distance meant to punish, but space used strategically, not confusion. Created to manipulate, but mystery preserved to build curiosity. Absence is not disconnection, it's contrast. When you are always available, always giving, always explaining, always present, you become part of the background. The power of absence is that it creates mental presence. You're not in the room, but you're still in his mind. Because humans don't obsess over what they can fully predict. They become fixated on what they almost understand but can't quite grasp. When you step back, not because you're playing a game, but because your life is full, because your time is valuable, because your energy is sacred, he begins to wonder, not in a panicked way, but in a captivated one. Where is she? What is she doing? Why does it feel like I miss her when she's not even mine? That's the beginning of obsession. Not drama, not chaos, but curated absence that makes your presence feel like an experience, not a given. Ambiguity has power because it keeps the mind engaged. It doesn't mean you're being vague about your feelings. It means you're not spilling every thought before he's earned the right to hear them. It means you don't explain yourself when your silence says more. It means you're layered and that not everyone gets access to the full map on day one. When you can master the art of speaking just enough to intrigue, of being warm but not open to all, of showing interest without surrendering your whole emotional landscape, you create space for curiosity to grow. And curiosity is a spark. It fuels attention. It makes him lean in because ambiguity invites exploration. When a man thinks he already has you figured out, he stops pursuing. But when you reveal yourself in layers, when you allow discovery to happen over time, when you don't give it all away in one night or one text thread, he becomes invested in the process. You become someone he wants to understand, not someone he casually enjoys. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to use absence or ambiguity out of fear. They don't respond because they're scared of looking too eager. They withdraw because they're afraid of getting hurt. But that's not power, that's panic. The real power comes from using absence and ambiguity from a place of abundance, not because you're afraid to be close, but because you know your energy is a luxury, and not everyone deserves constant access to it. You have to know that if your presence doesn't feel meaningful, it's because there hasn't been enough space for someone to miss it. You cannot be a mystery if you're explaining yourself constantly. You cannot be deeply valued if you're always trying to prove your worth. The irony is that the more you give in the early stages, the more likely you are to be taken for granted, because it's not effort that breeds obsession, it's contrast. Light and shadow, warmth and cool, closeness and space. Obsession is a mental loop, and absence is the trigger that starts it. And if he checks his phone, you're not there. He wonders what you're doing. He plays back the last thing you said. He thinks about your laugh, your voice, your scent. It's in that space, not in the text message, not in the call, that the bond starts to deepen. That's when he starts to feel you, not just see you. And once he begins to feel your absence, he'll crave your presence like a drug. Ambiguity does the same thing emotionally. It keeps him slightly off-center, not unsure of where he stands, but intrigued by how you move. You're not cold, but you're not predictable. You're not guarded, but you're not pouring everything out either. You smile, but don't rush to explain what you're thinking. You let silence hang when it needs to. You speak with intention, not oversharing. You trust that if he really wants to know you, he'll ask. And if he doesn't, that's not your loss, it's his. Here's what this all comes down to. Obsession doesn't grow in clarity. It grows in tension. It grows in the unknown. When you become too obvious, too easy to read, too eager to please, you lose that edge. But when you can be present without overexposing, when you can be affectionate without being clingy, when you can show interest without making it your job to carry the whole dynamic, you leave room for him to step up, to pursue, to be drawn into your orbit. You don't have to disappear completely to be missed. You just have to stop flooding every moment with your availability. You don't have to be cold to be powerful. You just have to know that silence, well placed, is louder than any desperate explanation. The more you give someone to think about, the more they will. And the less you give them to consume too quickly, the longer they'll stay intrigued. That is the power of absence. That is the genius of ambiguity. And when you master both, you stop being just another woman he met and become the one he can't stop thinking about. Most people think the way to capture a man's attention is by being available, always texting back fast, always agreeing, always there. But what they don't realize is that availability can actually dull attraction. When a man knows everything about you right away, when you reveal all your cards without letting him earn any of it, he gets comfortable. And when he gets comfortable too soon, he stops chasing. He stops wondering. He stops trying. But when you're emotionally curious instead of emotionally available, everything shifts. See, curiosity keeps the mind engaged. It keeps a man emotionally present, mentally locked in, and spiritually intrigued. Emotional curiosity is about showing that there's more to you than what meets the eye, that your world is rich, your thoughts are layered, and your heart is not something he can just walk into. It's something he has to earn. That doesn't mean you're emotionally closed off. It means you reveal yourself intentionally, not impulsively. When you lead with curiosity, you don't rush into vulnerability. You don't throw your heart into his hands just because he gave you attention. Instead, you hold your emotional world with value. You treat your feelings like currency, not to be handed out to anyone who asks, but to be given only to those who prove they can handle it with care. Think about it. When someone tells you everything about themselves in the first 10 minutes, it doesn't feel special. It feels overwhelming. But when someone gives you just enough to spark your interests, a story with meaning, a glimpse into their perspective, a flash of depth, and then pulls back slightly, your mind stays hooked. You want to know more. You lean in. You invest. That's what emotional curiosity does to a man. He doesn't obsess over the woman who tells him everything right away. He obsesses over the one he has to slowly figure out. Not because she's hiding, but because she's layered. And layers require attention. Layers require work. Layers make her unforgettable. This also means being emotionally curious about him too. But not in the typical way, not by flooding him with questions or overanalyzing his words. No, this kind of curiosity is quiet, confident, and focused. It's about listening more than speaking, noticing how he reacts, watching how he moves, making him feel seen without needing to explain yourself in return. It's giving just enough emotionally to make him feel important, but never so much that he feels like he's already got you. You are not emotionally available for just anyone. You are emotionally available to yourself first. And that internal loyalty, that unshakable self-respect, is what keeps men coming back, because they feel it. They sense that your world doesn't collapse around them, that your heart doesn't jump just because they showed up. And yet when you do share something real, it lands with power. It's not expected, it's not casual, it's rare, and rarity breeds obsession. Emotional curiosity also means you're more interested in connection than performance. You don't need to prove yourself, because you already know who you are. You're not trying to be impressive, you're just being true. And there is nothing more magnetic than a woman who can stand in her truth without needing approval. When he feels like he has to earn your vulnerability, not because you're punishing him, but because you honor your own energy, it makes every conversation more valuable, every moment with you more intense. You're not easy to get, not because you're cold, but because you're real. And being real means you don't fake closeness for the sake of attention. You don't confuse access with intimacy. You know that emotional connection isn't built in hours, it's built over time, through consistency, through mutual effort, through trust. There's something deeply intoxicating about a woman who can be soft, but not desperate, open but not exposed, interested but not overinvested. She gives off the kind of energy that makes a man ask himself, what's going on in her mind? He finds himself playing back your conversations, remembering how you looked at him, wondering if you're thinking about him too. That mental loop. That's where obsession begins. Not in what you gave, but in what you didn't give too quickly. So stop thinking you need to give more to be remembered. Start thinking about how you can reveal less, but with more meaning. Create moments, not monologues. Leave room for him to wonder, not assume. Let your emotions be part of your power, not a weakness to be hidden, but a strength to be managed. Let him work to know you. Let him feel the thrill of trying to understand the woman who doesn't need to be understood by everyone. That's where your edge is. That's where your value lives. Not in your availability, but in your intentionality. Because the men become obsessed with aren't the ones who hand themselves over. They're the ones who invite a man to earn them, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And when that happens, he doesn't just want her. He needs her, not because she chased him, but because she stood in her truth and let him chase that. Confidence is magnetic, but not the loud performative kind that tries to prove something. Real confidence is silent. It's in the way a woman walks into a room without needing anyone's validation. It's in how she says no without guilt. It's in how she can stand still while the world tries to shake her. That kind of confidence creates something powerful, in men respect. And when a man respects you, that's when obsession begins to grow. Most women are taught to be likable, to be agreeable, to make themselves smaller, to keep the peace. But obsession doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being valued. And value starts with self-respect. When you carry yourself with unshakable inner worth, men can feel it. They know they're not dealing with someone who's going to tolerate being treated like an option. They know they have to step up or step out. Here's the truth. A man cannot truly obsess over a woman he doesn't respect. Lust is easy. Infatuation is common. But respect, that's what makes a man look at you and think, I can't lose her. Respect tells him you're not impressed by surface level effort. You're not going to melt just because he calls you beautiful or sends a late night text. You know what you're worth, and if he's not showing up at that level, he doesn't get access to you. But this is where it gets even more powerful. When confidence and respect start to feed each other. When you move with confidence, you demand respect. And when you receive respect, your confidence deepens. That's the loop. And it's a loop that keeps a man circling back, again and again. He becomes emotionally hooked, not just because you're attractive, but because being around you challenges him to be better. You don't lower your standards just to keep him close. You hold the line. You make it clear that access to your energy is earned. And every time he does something right, not for reward, but because it's who he's becoming, the loop gets tighter. Confidence isn't about arrogance. It's about clarity. You know what you want. You know what you don't. You're not scared to walk away from someone who doesn't align. That strength, it shakes a man's ego and ignites his obsession. Because deep down, men crave challenge. Not drama, not games, a real challenge. A woman who doesn't fold just to avoid discomfort. A woman who speaks truthfully, loves fearlessly, and doesn't let fear drive her decisions. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. Confidence can be calm. It can be quiet. It can be as simple as not reacting when he tries to push your buttons, as subtle as holding eye contact without flinching, as bold as saying, "I'm not okay with that," and meaning it. Men remember women who carry themselves like queens, not because they're cold or distant, but because their presence demands respect. They don't beg for love, they don't chase attention, they don't tolerate crumbs, and because they refuse to settle, men either rise to meet them or get left behind. But here's something most women don't realize: men also test your confidence. Not always consciously, but they do. They pull back to see how you'll react. They push boundaries to see if you'll hold the line. And every time you stay grounded, every time you choose your dignity over desperation, you teach him something. You show him that you're not here to be conquered. You're here to be chosen by someone worthy. When a man respects a woman's confidence, it changes how he sees her. He stops comparing her to others. He starts comparing others to her. He remembers how she makes him feel. Not just in the good moments, but in the hard ones. When she didn't chase. When she didn't fold, when she loved herself enough to walk away, even if it hurt. That's when obsession takes root, not when she's perfect, but when she's powerful, because she knows her value and moves accordingly. Confidence also gives you a kind of emotional insulation. You're not shaken by rejection. You're not addicted to reassurance. You're not trying to control his behavior to feel safe. You're solid within yourself, and that stability creates polarity. He's drawn to you because you're not leaning on him for identity. You already have one. Like a confident woman can be soft, but never weak. She can be kind, but not naive. She can love deeply, but not blindly. And that balance, it keeps a man guessing, keeps him chasing, keeps him craving your approval, because it's not handed out for free. Respect isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the little things. In how you talk about yourself, in how you carry pain, in how you hold space for yourself, even when he tries to interrupt it. Men may chase a pretty face, but they stay obsessed with a woman who respects herself so deeply. She teaches him how to respect her too. That's the loop. Confidence creates respect. Respect deepens confidence. And together they create a gravitational pull that no man can escape. Not because you tricked him, but because you became the standard. Not by begging for love, but by being it. Attraction will draw a man to you, but it's not what keeps him there. It's not what makes him wake up thinking about you. It's not what makes him reroute his entire life just to be close to you. What creates that kind of hold over a man isn't surface-level desire. It's emotional bonding. It's the connection he feels when he looks at you and sees not just beauty but depth, not just excitement but truth. Most women are taught to lead with their looks, with charm, with performance. And while those things may ignite interest, they don't create the kind of obsession that lingers in a man's heart long after the spark fades. Because a man can be attracted to dozens of women in his lifetime, but he only bonds deeply with one, or maybe two, who see him, not the version he presents to the world, but the version that hides in the quiet. That's the difference. When a woman knows how to tap into emotional intimacy, she stops being interchangeable. She becomes the one he turns to when life is falling apart. She becomes the one who understands him without needing to fix him. The one who can hold space for his silence, his fears, his ambition, his darkness, and not flinch. That level of connection, that's rare, and it's addictive. A man doesn't obsess over a woman just because she's beautiful. He obsesses because she makes him feel something. No one else does. Safe, yet challenged. Seen, yet not judged. Desired, yet still respected. It's a paradox, and that paradox is where true emotional power lives. So how does that kind of bond form? It starts when you stop performing, when you drop the mask, when you choose vulnerability over perfection, because that's what makes you human. And emotional bonding requires humanity, not strategy. You don't need to tell him your entire life story on the first date. But when you speak from your truth, your real beliefs, your real wounds, your real experiences, you create a bridge, a place where emotional resonance can exist. And men feel that, even when they can't articulate it. They know when a woman is connected to herself, when she's not just reacting, but responding with awareness. That kind of woman doesn't try to control the moment. She doesn't rush to fill silence. She's present. And that presence, that's what makes a man feel emotionally safe. Because here's the secret. Most people don't know. Men crave emotional safety too. They just don't always know how to ask for it. They've been conditioned to lead, to protect, to dominate, but deep down they want to be understood. They want someone who can hold them emotionally without making them feel weak. When you bond with a man emotionally, you give him a place to be real. And that's when he starts letting you into the parts of him that no one else sees. That's when the walls come down. That's when the obsession starts. Not because he's addicted to you, but because he trusts you. And trust is everything. It's the foundation of true emotional intimacy. You don't build it by being perfect. You build it by being consistent, by being honest, even when it's uncomfortable, by listening without turning everything into a debate, by holding him accountable without attacking him. Men notice these things. They notice the difference between a woman who's emotionally intelligent and one who's emotionally chaotic. The emotionally intelligent woman isn't cold, she's warm, but she knows how to manage her emotions without making them someone else's responsibility. She doesn't punish, she communicates. She doesn't chase, she attracts. And because of that, she earns a different kind of place in a man's heart. But emotional bonding also requires boundaries. It doesn't mean losing yourself in his story. It doesn't mean healing him while ignoring your own needs. It means showing up as an equal, as someone who can sit in his pain without abandoning her own center. That strength, soft yet unshakable, is what makes a man look at you differently. He realizes you're not just another woman in his life. You're the one who made him feel alive, who made him reflect, who made him want to be better. Not for you, but for himself. Because love isn't just about chemistry, it's about transformation. And men transform in the presence of a woman who bonds emotionally, who doesn't just light up his body, but his soul, who asks questions no one else dares to ask, who listens not to reply, but to understand. That's when he starts calling you without needing a reason. That's when your voice becomes a grounding force. That's when he starts protecting you, prioritizing you, choosing you, not out of duty, but out of emotional connection. You don't get that by being available all the time or by trying to impress him. You get that by being yourself, fully and unapologetically. Emotional bonds are formed in shared silence, honest conversations, laughter that comes from the gut, moments that aren't about performance but presence. And once you reach that level, once he's emotionally hooked, he can't just walk away. Because emotional bonding creates memory, it creates meaning, it creates attachment, not the toxic kind, but the kind that roots him to you in a way that physical attraction never could. So if you want to make a man obsessed, not for a night, but for a lifetime, don't just aim to be desirable, aim to be felt. Aim to be the woman who knows how to reach his heart without ever forcing your way in. That's where real power lives, in the bond you build, in the trust you earn, in the emotional space you create, where he finally feels like he can breathe. And once he's tasted that, there's no going back. When you understand the psychology behind real obsession, you stop playing the games everyone else is stuck in. You stop chasing attention, begging for validation, or shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You rise above that because now you know the power isn't in being available, it's in being unforgettable. You don't make a man obsessed by giving him everything. You make him obsessed by being a woman. He can't define, can't predict, and most importantly, can't replace. A woman who evokes curiosity, not confusion, emotion, not just attraction, respect, not just desire. This isn't about manipulation. It's about embodiment. Embodying the woman who leads with grace, holds her boundaries, and commands presence without ever raising her voice. The woman who walks away when her worth isn't recognized and walks in powerfully when it is. That woman doesn't just attract attention, she owns it. And when a man experiences that version of you, the version that's emotionally intelligent, mysterious, confident, and connected, he doesn't forget it. He can't, because you didn't just touch his heart. You challenged his soul. So ask yourself this: are you ready to stop waiting for someone to choose you and start becoming the woman he is, afraid to lose? Because once you step into that version of yourself, obsession isn't something you chase. It's something you command.